Welcome to Breaking the Lines podcast. I'm Arland.
I'm Akeem, and this is a Premier League podcast.
Match week 10, mate. It was a brilliant one. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, my bro. It was a very entertaining match week. How are you doing this weekend? Or
Good.
how are you feeling after this weekend, I should say?
Very, very good, mate. It was a great weekend. Arsenal won. Got to watch a ton of games. Saturday, we were just kind of awkward, not having that early morning game. But I mean, Prem until 6 p.m. our time was definitely something. But yeah, brilliant weekend, mate.
Yeah, some good games on as well. I'm sure you're happy, like you said, for the Arsenal win. Seemed to kind of just been like, Arsenal winning, not conceding every week.
Yeah.
Long may that not continue, I would say. But, some good games. I was able to watch all the games, like you said, no, not early kickoff, but I was able to watch most of the games. So I'm happy with that and ready for this week, honestly. I didn't even check the reviews, mate, honestly. I need to check the prediction. Did you check them?
I did. We didn't do great, to be honest, but as we go through them, we'll talk about them. And I guess we can kind of start off with the Brighton Leeds game. That's the first one I have written down here. And I had this 2-0 to Brighton. You had a 2-1, and I finished obviously 3-1. So both gave it to Brighton. Just couldn't get the goals right. And I don't think I think just by looking at it, you and I both kind of expected Leeds to put up more of a fight.
Yeah, I think we were, like you said, Leeds been doing well so far. So it was actually a bit surprising to see that. But, not surprising that we're not expecting it or not Brighton can't win 3-0. But Leeds having a bright start, it's just a bit surprising to see that they'd go down so easily. Even though they did have chances if you watch the game. It's just one of those kind of games, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a game of moments, right? I mean, you put away your chances. If you don't put away your chances, you're going to get punished in this league. So, yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think it was, obviously brilliant result for Brighton. Leeds, not so good. But what a performance by Danny Welbeck on the score sheet again. And, I think it's been kind of circling around a bit. But, mate, you think he gets in the England squad?
I mean, why not, right? If they need the experience, I think the one thing that might be against him is with Harry Kane, and the legs. I don't know if they want to go with two strikers without legs. So, I mean, Wells could still do a good job. I'm not discrediting any of them. But, with Harry Kane obviously not being the most mobile striker, I'm not sure if Tuchel will go. Because you want to change the game, and you don't want to have two strikers that necessarily doesn't run in behind as frequently as others. So, but let's see. I think he can.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I mean, I think it would be a brilliant option to have, just kind of somebody that's in and around that box. And I mean, who's to say Harry Kane is playing striker for England in the World Cup? I mean, he's been kind of playing a little bit deeper at times for Bayern this year, but I think it's a brilliant option to have. I mean, we look at England strikers and, the rest of them are not really great, or not necessarily great, but just not in form at the moment.
Yeah, it's up for grabs at the moment. Watkins, a poor start to the season. Liam Delap can't keep himself on the pitch physically or whether it's in the law. So yeah, I think it would be interesting. Obviously, like you said, Kane playing a bit deeper. So he started as a 10 over the weekend. So yeah, it would be interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess, if you don't have anything else on the Brighton Leeds game, we can kind of take it over to my guys, Arsenal winning at Burnley 2-0. Another set piece, mate.
Yeah, you seen the account. I almost like that account now, Clinical Kai, I think it's called on Twitter, and I think he just does it for the fun. He's like not tweeting until Arsenal scores a set piece.
He's not getting much of a break, to be honest.
So he does it like 2 hours before every game, and then he just wakes up. But yeah, I think a well controlled. I mean, I wouldn't say it's not controlled. Well controlled performance from Arsenal. Good game, obviously 2-0, getting your striker on the score sheet as well as also was a good thing for you guys. And I saw you captain him this week in your fantasy, so I'm sure you're happy with that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I was definitely happy he got a goal. I thought his performance was actually pretty good. He was kind of, working a lot off the ball, on the ball, making runs, and he played a ball for the Rice goal or to Trossard, which I think there was some debate if it was meant for Trossard or not, but just just being available kind of in the transition of, back to front, I think is something that's very helpful to this Arsenal team. It was a little bit worrying seeing him go off at halftime, to be honest, but I think from the reports and just things that I've seen, I don't think it's necessarily like a big injury. I think it's more of just like just need some rest and just so it doesn't turn into something big. So, hopefully there's that. Other than that, I mean, it was pretty solid. First half was solid. Second half, I think Arsenal kind of just coasted through the game, so it wasn't much in that second half. But obviously 3 points, clean sheet, no shots on target. We move on to the next one.
Yeah, that one, you're a bit scared there. He hit the post at the end. I was hoping, I'm a hater. I'm not gonna lie. I'll be hate watching. I definitely wanna. I can concede Arsenal winning the title. It will not go down easy with me if they beat that 15 goal defensive what we have. So I hate watching in terms of I want to see people score against Arsenal. Well, yeah, I mean, a good control performance, like we've been saying on the pod for the past couple of weeks, and I think it's going to be a season like that. I don't think there's going to be many teams that cause them hiccup from the first 10 games and what I'm going on. I mean, hopefully this change and I treat 11 when I'm talking to you. So yeah,
Yeah, well, and one other thing, to be honest, just looking at it, getting back some of these players that are injured in November, obviously not for the Sunderland game, but I think when we come back from international break, there's reports that Odegaard, Madueke, Havertz are all coming back. So I think that will be having a fully strengthened squad. Is going to be interesting to see sort of how they manage, because I think we mentioned it before, but I just think that they look a lot more fluid with Odegaard. So I'm excited to see that. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if a lot of people feel this way, but I'm honestly excited to see Jesus come back too. I haven't necessarily given up on him. I'm not expecting, a whole lot, but I'm excited to see kind of how he comes back and if he can give us any minutes and just give us something else, right? I think he comes back early December, so he's been out for a while, but we'll see how he recovers from the injuries that he's had.
yeah, he adds a bit of different dynamic to the team. I think the one thing that would be the only problem I see going for Arsenal this season, and I don't necessarily see it happening this season, is keeping all of those players happy. Obviously, like you said, Jesus coming back, Havertz will be coming back, Madueke will be coming back. You have Odegaard coming back as well. So, it's going to be a lot of options to pick from. I mean, I know the season is long and there's lots of games to kind of rotate in and out, but I think even if Arsenal does win the title this season, I think that would be the biggest question mark at the end of this season. Who is, or maybe the players are happy, but I think when you go into an Odegaard or especially your midfield, it's just there's lots of quality there. So I think all of those players would respectfully look for themselves to be a starter. I don't know if it's this season, but going forward. So yeah, I think that would be the most interesting thing. Like you said, I think on par they have right now the best squad as you can see in the Premier League, and they're making it a bit easy for themselves. So yeah, well done to them. A good control performance again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you bring up a great point. I mean, you kind of have to be an expert at rotating, right? To keep all those guys happy. And I think, so far in the season, Arteta's kind of had it almost kind of done for him or calculated for him just because of injuries and whatnot. But when everyone comes back, it's going to be interesting to see how he maintains that. I mean, he's done it a little bit with the Champions League. I mean, obviously we haven't faced like great competition in the Champions League so far, but he's rotated. He'll bring in like Lewis Skelly, Ben White, Hinakape in the back line, and then even Mosquera will get minutes in the midfield. Norgard, Marino, just rotating a little bit, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I think it's a great thing to keep an eye out for, though.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, well, Set Piece FC, we're done with, I guess. We don't have to spend too much time on them. Next up, we have the Palace. Before actually we move on, this was one that I got spot on. I had 2-0. You had 3-0. So I know we're trying to keep a track of that this time around. So moving on to Palace and Brentford, a 2-0 victory for Palace, back to winning ways, and they've started messing around with that bio again.
They definitely did. I think that was funny from them, but yeah, a well played from Palace. I mean, an own goal in the second half, but what a goal from Mateta. I still don't have him in my fantasy. He has me thinking now that I'm looking at the game and remembering it myself. But Yeah, a little bit kind of I expected. I know I have 3-0, but I still kind of expected a bit more from Brentford. But yeah, 2-0 to Palace, a good game from Palace. I wasn't able to catch too much of this game, to be honest with you. I was able to see the goals and kind of bits and pieces of it. So not too much, but seems as if it was a good performance from Palace.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think, for this game, I had this game being a draw, a 2-2 draw. I think I just expected a little bit more from Brentford after that performance against Liverpool. And you had Palace to win 2-1. So I think we both kind of expected Brentford to do a little bit more. Which I mean, it's not like they didn't do anything. They had the possession comfortably over Palace. It's just Palace I think just have that sort of grit and having Mateta up top. I mean, what a goal he scored. It was a brilliant, brilliant header and not an easy sort of redirection of that ball towards goal, but good victory for them. I mean, this moves them to 16 points, so I don't think that's necessarily bad for them and sort of where they're trying to be in the league. Brentford, we've kind of praised them in the last few weeks, and I don't necessarily think that this deserves us to kind of go hard on them or anything like that. I think they've had a decent few weeks, but the points return in the first 10 games, 13 points, I don't think is quite where they want to be, to be honest.
Yeah, it's maybe not as quiet, but still not as worrying for them, considering like what we spoke about week in and week out with them losing or what they did over the summer with a couple of players and the manager as well. So not the best performance on the day from them, but I still don't think it's something that's worrying considering the start.
They sit in 12th place too, which is, might not seem great, but I mean the teams that they're around are some big teams. They're around the Newcastle, Villas, Brightons, so they're kind of in that mix where I think both of us would sort of expect them to finish. So not the end of the world for them. I'm sure they move on.
Yeah, and the table changes every week as you've seen, like 3 points and points are gonna be dropped. Sunderland's still in fourth. Bournemouth's still there, not saying anything, but there's only 10 match weeks in. We still got, at least 28 match weeks to go. So, yeah, I think it will be for Brentford, like you said, not a bad start when you compare, when you think about West Ham, Forest, and Wolves, established teams that's been in the league and has also spent quite a bit of money over the summer. And a couple of them are or at least all of them are in the relegation zone at the moment. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I guess we can switch over to Craven Cottage and the mauling of Wolves by Fulham. I had
yeah.
this game 1-0 and you had it 2-2. So I think we were trying to give Wolves a little bit of credit based off of their performance in the previous game. But 3-0 victory for Fulham. There was a red card in this game, which I felt was a little bit harsh, if I'm being honest. I don't know how you feel about it, but I thought that it could have been a yellow. I felt like it was a little bit too wide and there was another player sort of close by, but that's just my sort of personal opinion. I can see why it is a red card, but Fulham get a much needed victory.
Yeah, I think I agree with the red. It's a bit soft. I can say that. But he's the last man. I think it's very difficult for that player inside to catch up if you look at the play over with Wolves. So I know what you mean based on the situation where Wolves is at the moment. It just seems a bit tough, but I don't think Wolves are doing themselves any justice. I watched the game and it was just a horrible performance from Wolves, to be honest. And it's been, throughout the season, horrible performances week in, week out. So I don't think they gave themselves any justice here in terms of the way they played, especially going down to 10 men. It was a silly challenge. It was a bit soft, but also a silly challenge. No need to in that situation there, especially being the last man. So, I mean, good performance from Fulham. They were winning anyway before. I think that based on even the run of play of the game before that, it looked as if it was in Fulham's hand. So yeah, worrying times as we keep saying for Wolves. And I mean, I believe they sacked their manager after the game, so that only says much. They play Chelsea next, so we can expect them to all rise in that game.
Well, yeah, it's actually it's. I'm happy you brought up the manager sacking because 45 days ago, you and I were talking about Wolves' poor start, and we were kind of debating why they extended Pereira's contract, and we fast forward 45 days later, and they only have 2 points. They've scored 7 goals, conceded 22 goals, and they've sacked him after just extending his contract. So I think that just shows you that that club is in shambles. And I mean I've said this on previous weeks, but I really do believe that Wolves is out. I mean, I don't see them recovering. I don't see them being able to get 30 something points in the remaining 28 games. I just don't see it happening.
Nah, they it's looking very dull for them, honestly. I don't see them as myself getting out of that bottom the relegation zone at the moment, especially with the performance that they put in. Not just this Saturday. It was very poor watching that game, but also just the start of the season, like you said. I mean, long season to go, so let's see what happens, but I don't see them making it out of the relegation zone.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Well, before we get too depressing and talking about Wolves, let's move over to one of their fellow sort of relegation zone teams, Forest and United. This was a good game. I actually watched this game. I think you did as well. I had 2-1 to United, and I think you had 1-1. Obviously, a game ended 2-2 in a draw, and I thought it was a good game. I was a little bit disappointed in United, sort of how they came out for the second half. First half, I thought they played well. Obviously, they were 1 up, and it
Not a
just
corner. Absolutely not a corner.
and I'm happy you said that because, I saw a lot of, there's a lot was made about that, and I mean, I think there was, like, 4 corners in this game or 4 decisions in this game where it either should have been a corner, and it was a goal kick, or it was a goal kick and it should have been a corner, and, I remember Sean Dyche on the sidelines, he was just, pointing to his head, making sure his team pay attention, and they end up conceding from it, so I think it's harsh, but at the same time, I mean, I think Forrest got a couple corners that weren't corners and got a couple goal kicks that should have been corners, and even United had a few too. But I can definitely see why they're frustrated, and I mean I would be livid too, to be honest. But what a second half by Forrest. I mean they came out all guns blazing, 2 goals back to back, 2 minutes, and 2-1 up. It seemed like United couldn't get through after that.
I enjoyed the game itself. Like you said, I think it was a very entertaining game end to end. I think United Forest surprised me a bit because I thought they would be a bit more defensive. So when I saw that the game was a bit open, I was surprised watching. But yeah, a bit entertaining. United being, I think, just a better team in the first half. I was actually impressed with the way they tried to play and some of their interchanges and stuff. Then in the second half, like you said, I think even more impressed with just the way how Forrest came out. Surprising, especially under Sean Dice. I expect the team, but I mean they were down 1-0 at the moment, so I guess they had no option but to come out pressing or come out for the going out for a goal. So it was impressive. I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the goals. What a goal from Ahmad to tie it up there in the
Yeah,
second half.
absolutely stunner.
Yeah, that
Makes
was a
you
good goal.
Makes you wonder though what Sean Dyche did at halftime. He must have been throwing something around in that dressing room to get them to come out that like that.
Yeah, I think even Gibbs liked it. I think sometimes players just need a clear structure. At times I think you see it a lot in the Premier League. I wouldn't say it even is just Forest. I watch Chelsea a lot, so I see it a lot. It's different halves. As coaches, as a team, sometimes you prepare all week for a certain style of play or a certain way of play, and then a team surprises you, which I'm sure probably maybe United surprised Forest a bit, or the other way around, vice versa. So I don't know, but I think it's just a game of halves, and also we see it sometimes. Goalkeepers going down middle of the half just to kind of get like almost what we call a timeout over here in America. So I think it's sometimes just to tweak a bit. You're playing against a back four versus a back five. How much players you're going to attack with, vice versa, stuff like that. So maybe not necessarily throwing stuff because I don't think they were so horrible in the first half, but, just maybe tweaking and finding some gaps in between the Man United defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of things I actually wrote down for this one. I mean, I thought Cunha and Šeško played poorly just watching the game. Maybe Šeško a little bit more than Cunha. I just thought he didn't really offer anything for United. And then looking at some of the substitutions that were made, I mean, Morim only made 2 substitutions, and they were both for defenders. He brought out Patrick Dorgu and brought in Diego Dalot, which is, you could argue a straight swap, and then brought out Euro and brought in Mazraoui, which I honestly thought when he did this, he was switching to a back four, but it didn't, I don't think it panned out that way. So another straight swap, if you will. So I was kind of interested to see that. And then I think after the game, he mentioned something about, he felt he had the best team on the pitch to win the game. So I think that there's something in there, especially for, who he had on the bench and sort of what he thinks about them when his side is chasing a goal or chasing the game. But yeah, I think overall, I mean, I don't want to say good point. I think United will be disappointed just because, looking at the table before this game, Forrest, sat in 18th place on 5 points. They hadn't they had one victory all season and two draws. I think when you look at it in that sort of perspective, it's probably disappointing from United. I think Forest will sort of bounce back and start climbing a little bit under Sean Dyche. I think they'll find ways to get some points.
I agree, but I also believe, I watched. I'm not sure if you watched that Jurgen Klopp interview that he did on High Performance a couple weeks back, but even he was saying it about United. I think where United is in the moment, I think they have to be kind of, what's that? Did they win 3 games in a row and that was a draw in the fourth, or is that 2 games in a row and a draw?
3 games in a row with a draw in the fourth.
Yeah, so I mean, from where they're coming from, perspective, I think this season it's not going to be a season where they win the league, but it's better than a defeat that they're used to at least, especially after a couple wins. So I mean, something to build on. And like you said, they can be disappointed in terms of they could have won the game, but I think also, Forrest had chances as well. And like you said, there's a couple players disappointed for United. So I think for where they're at in the moment, it's something to build on. I would look at. I don't think it's something as disappointing, but especially having never won 3 in a row or even 5 in a row. So yeah.
So moving over to a London derby, Spurs versus Chelsea at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, 1-0 for Chelsea, and um, I'll be honest with you, I think this is probably one of the worst games I've watched this season. Obviously, brilliant 3 points for Chelsea. I think, when you can win in a London rivalry, 3 points, you take it. But I just thought that the game was really scrappy, and it felt like the referee was blowing his whistle, every 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think it was one of those games. I think Spurs didn't offer anything, honestly, in the game. I think that was the disappointing part of watching that game, especially being away at the Spurs stadium. They've been a bit, I think, since Burnley at home, they picked up 1 points there in the first 10 weeks, match weeks. So yeah, it was just a bit disappointing from Spurs. And watching it from a Chelsea point of view, like you said, it's always happy to win a London derby, or especially when it's against a rival. But from a neutral perspective, I think Spurs just didn't offer anything in that game. To be honest, Chelsea came out with a high press, looked well, was structured. I mean, I think obviously won them the game where they got the goal, but I think at times the high press was broken and Spurs just didn't offer anything, any X factor to kind of do anything in the game. Most of their plays, they played it back. I think even the fans booed a couple times, just because of how negative the football was. So yeah, it was a bit surprising, but not surprising when you look at the context of Spurs have only been Chelsea, I believe, 8 times in like 60 plus appearances. And, haven't beat Chelsea in a long time. And since the start of the season, like we said, they've picked up 4 points at home in 10 match weeks. So yeah, just a bit disappointed from Spurs. They didn't offer anything in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, this might not even make sense, but I think Spurs were so disappointing that it almost like took Chelsea by surprise, kind of how the game went. And Chelsea should have put this game away, early on. I mean, João Pedro had a sort of a one-on-one with the goalkeeper and he just skied it. And I just, I was like, there's no way. And then obviously he scored again in the 34th minute, I think it was. And, like you said, very disappointing from Spurs. Bergvall went off with an injury early on. I don't think that I'm sure that he probably solidified that midfield a bit, but I don't think it would have changed much, to be honest. I thought that there should have been 2 red cards in this game, one to Bentancur in the first half, and I thought Enzo should have got one in the second half. VAR decided neither one was a red card, so I guess, that kind of evens out, but I mean, horrendous challenges. I mean, I don't understand how VAR looks at those and says not a red card. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I believe we even texted during the game, and I was just asking you. I'd have to review that Enzo one in the second half again, because honestly, at the moment I'm not quite remembering. But we even texted and I asked you. I'm like, what is a foul in the Premier League anymore? Because you and I are not even sure. Some weeks we see it given, and some weeks not. And I get it, especially in a derby, you want to kind of embrace that physicality side of the game, because it's two teams that kind of hate each other, but I just don't know. I think where you draw the line of what's a foul and what's not a foul anymore. And it's not for us to call out the refs or anything. It's just there's a gray area there that we just sometimes don't get. I think there was a lot of calls in that first half that the ref let go. And let the game go on both sides, not just on one side, that he could have called, which I felt was, I guess, okay. I still wasn't fully happy with the way it was. In the second half, I think the ref did better because I think he saw the challenge at halftime and realized that it could have been a red card. So yeah, I think it's a topic that we talk about week in, week out, not just in the derbies. It's just kind of what is a foul and what's not a foul anymore. Because yeah, it was a bit tough, to call, especially being a derby.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, I think, I think it's a deserved victory for Chelsea, if I'm being honest. I don't think Spurs have any argument. I don't even think Spurs fan would have any argument, to be honest, that they deserved anything more than what they got.
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing from Spurs and
Yeah,
Frank.
yeah, and I think they were booed off the pitch, which rightfully so. They should have been. And their next game is United, so I think that that's going to be interesting to see if they can bounce back. If more of the same continues, then I think that we have to have some questions about them in terms of their grit, I'd say. I think that they're home again, and like you said, their home form has not been great, so it just adds a lot of sort of interesting dynamics to their next one.
Yeah, it will be interesting because United would also be looking for revenge from that Europa League final, so should be an interesting one for both teams actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was one before we move on to the next one. I think I had 2-1 for Chelsea and you had 2-0 for Chelsea. So I guess, we both had Chelsea winning this and I think that, we made our arguments for it last week, but I don't think it necessarily played out the way either one of us thought, but I think, definitely Chelsea deserved victors on the day.
Yeah, the better team on the day for sure.
Yeah.
Takes us into Anfield here over Liverpool and Aston Villa.
Yeah, what a game. I watched this game and I mean it was interesting. We don't get many 4 p.m. kickoffs on Saturday in the Prem here on the East Coast, but
Shout out to
what
time change, man.
absolutely, mate. I honestly I didn't even realize the clocks went back. I mean, I woke up I think they went Saturday overnight. I woke up and I mean I didn't even realize that they went back, but 2-0 victory for Liverpool and we both had this going to Liverpool. I think we both felt that they'd get back to winning ways and they'd just be a little bit too much for Villa. But the way the game started, it was pretty even to be honest, up until kind of that second part of the first half.
Yeah. Rogers hitting the post there in the start of the game there. Yeah, it was a pretty even game. I think it was. Like we said, I mean, watching the game, you saw the first goal was kind of an error from Martinez to Salah there. So it took an error to kind of, just unsteady the ship. But yeah, I don't think there was much in the game up until the error, honestly. And then after that, you kind of expected, like we said, with what's been going on at Liverpool, for them to kind of get back into winning ways. So, they kind of just the game went into their favors. But I mean, even after, I think Villa still had chances. So yeah, it was a good game. I don't think it was anything crazy, but because of the mistakes, not the mistakes, but just some mistake there from Martinez. But yeah, a good game for Liverpool, I guess, to get back to winning ways.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't think Liverpool looked like they were phenomenal. But I was saying this. I was actually watching this game with my dad and my brother, and I was just saying it's gonna bite Villa building out of the back because I think before the goal there was a couple of instances where they were playing around with it back there, and they either got bailed out or barely made it out. And sure enough, I mean Martinez error trying to build out of the back, and Salah puts it away in an empty net. So I think that kind of gave Liverpool some relief coming into the second half, and they just got another goal, and Villa attacked and tried to get something back, but they just couldn't.
Yeah, they just, I think there, like you said, and especially coming in the second half, because the first half was a bit, like we said, even not too much in between. Yeah, and then in the 58th minute there, I think it being a weekend of kind of center mids or defensive center mids, right? Bird scoring a good goal. He's been on the score sheet a lot lately. Rice scored in Arsenal game, and then Caicedo assisting in the Chelsea Spurs game.
Casemiro too.
Oh yeah, Casemiro as well. I forgot. The plus header far post for United.
Xhaka
Yeah,
as well.
Saka. Yep, he tied
Yep.
it up for Sunderland there. So yeah, it was a weekend for the center mids, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. Plenty of FPL points to go around. But yeah,
I have none of them. I have absolutely none. That's a problem. Do you have any?
I actually don't think I do. I don't have a single one of them either. And
Yeah,
I I honestly don't think I'm gonna bring a single one of them in either, to be honest. But
Yeah, I don't think so either.
it's interesting. I think I think the most interesting thing about this is seeing how Liverpool bounce back. I mean, the next game is City, and obviously a tough game. I think City is in a little bit better form now than they were earlier in the season. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of build off of this. And obviously that midweek game to Real Madrid, we'll see how that goes as well. Uh, that moves us to London Stadium, and the bubbles are blowing again.
Yeah, what a win for West Ham, 3-1 versus Newcastle.
Yeah, absolutely. What a game this was too. I mean, early goal by Murphy, and then I thought what should have been a penalty was called as a penalty initially, and then overturned for Newcastle, and then it just kind of all went downhill from there.
Yeah, a bit one of those. I think Newcastle went a bit too arrogant, if you would ask me. Felt like they should have won the game, which they should. West Ham has been really poor since the start of the season, but I think obviously with Nuno coming in, we kind of know his blueprint and how he sees the game. And with West Ham getting something they can go on with after that 2-1, it was just something, a bit with Suchek scoring there. It was just the game was kind of set up for them, I think. Set up for Nuno and the way he coaches and the way he sees the game. So it was a good win. It was good to see. Obviously with Chelsea and being up there in the I think what seventh or eighth position right now. Newcastle is just in and about those positions. So I was watching a way of wanting Newcastle to lose, but also wanting Baltimore to get me some FPL points, which he did absolutely horrendous and was taken off at halftime. So I mean, a lose win for me, but I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was interesting because I actually I didn't think that Newcastle really offered much in the second half, and I don't know if maybe Volamade coming off was part of that. But do we think that this could be sort of the beginning of a resurgence from West Ham? Because I thought that this team looked more like a Nuno team the way that they defended this game.
I don't know if it's a resurgent. I think it was just a poor day from Newcastle, and we spoke about it offline, but a couple times. But I think these teams and I'm not going to say Newcastle sits back all the time, but I think a lot of these teams that sits back quite often find it very difficult to break down a team that sits back. And I saw in the second half, I watched it. Newcastle had all their center backs, all their players was in West Ham half, but just no vocal point really in the box to kind of get that ball to, and especially taking the striker off at halftime. I think it just made it a bit easier for Nuno and West Ham, especially with the way that they want to play. I mean, we've seen West Ham so far this season, and I think they've been stretched a bit when you have someone in the box, to hit, or when you're playing through them. Taking the striker off just made it a bit easier for them in the second half. I'm not taking any credit away from West Ham, but I don't think it's going to be a resurgence from them. I think it was just one of those days from Newcastle.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I can see it. It's gonna be interesting to see how West Ham kind of build off this. I think their next game is home to Burnley, so I think that's a game where they should feel and probably do feel that they can pick up some points there. So it'll be interesting to see. Interesting to see how Newcastle bounce back to their way to Brentford, and I think that another sort of game where they feel like they should be picking up points. But yeah, uh, not much more on that one, to be honest. We can move over to the Etihad, and I think that this game was a good game as well. I mean, I watched this game too, and City with a 3-1 victory, but it was interesting because I thought Bournemouth kind of did everything that Bournemouth has been doing all season. They didn't really change up their style of play, and they even had possession over City at the Etihad.
Yeah, I think it was a good game. Bournemouth started very well, scored a couple, not in the start, but they scored that offside goal with Krupi to start the game. And then after, I think just what Erling Haaland he's a robot, man. I mean, he did the dance, the celebration, but that guy, I watch the goals and I think he's just crazy. One way he took his whole half. I think he had a whole half to run 1v1 at the goalie and then he scored. But I think for that second goal, if you watch his movements, just crazy. I mean, 13 goals so far this season in 10 matches
Yeah.
is absolutely insane return. So
Yep.
yeah, what a game. Well, like you said, I don't think it was as bad from Bournemouth. I think it was just Holland's day, the
Yeah.
robot being a robot.
Yeah, and he should have had a hat trick too. I think he had a third chance after the first two, and he tried
Hmm.
to chip it over the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper just stayed strong and saved it. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, what a player. I think we've said in the last few pods. Definitely. I think best striker in the world by far. I don't think anyone really comes close to him in terms of a pure striker. I was a bit disappointed though in the way Bournemouth defended him. I mean, I just thought that they gave him too much space. I thought the center backs were too far removed from him. I feel like when you have a player of that high profile in that position as a center back, you want to stay close to them at all times. And I just felt like they were a little bit too far away from him on both of those goals. I mean, again, I know it's difficult to sort of, um, you know, follow a defensive plan and sort of keep your positioning and also follow him around. But I would have liked to have seen them kind of stay tighter and closer to see how that matchup would have been.
I think on both goals, his honestly can't fault Bournemouth on any of the goals because I think on both goals, his movement is just, class. I think it was Bernardo Silva on the first one that just headed that ball into space. I mean, Bournemouth's pushing up. We see it, like I said, we just talked about it in the Newcastle game. Bournemouth had possession of the ball. So, they pushed up and they were trying to make something happen and City won it. It was a quick transition. But I think just his movement to recognize the space in behind and where to stay and when to go. I think his second goal, I mean, if we're talking about movement, I think that summed it up all. Like you said, Bournemouth gave him space, but I think with or without the space, it's just the way he is, he's going to make something happen. So I don't really fault Bournemouth too much because like I said, that second goal itself, I'm pretty sure those defenders are trying. But if you watch even his run, I think at one time he didn't realize how far the defender was on the other side away from him. So he even checked his offside run. So he's just, I think he's a player kind of reminds you of one of those players that, they're not the best footballing player in terms of when the ball's on the ground to play with it. So he works on his movement and to be very decisive in those moments. And you can tell he's clinical, as we know. So his movements also, I think, is a bit underrated.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing I really had on this game, to be honest, was the Donnarumma error on the goal. I didn't think it was a foul on him. I didn't think anyone was really around him, to be honest. But I thought that was an error, and it's an area that I think you and I both spoke about City and the goalkeeper earlier on in the season. I don't think that we necessarily expect Donnarumma to make that sort of error. He's very commanding in and around that box. I think that's the only other really point I had on that game. Other than that, I thought, City obviously 3-1 victory. Looks like it was comfortable.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think it was sort of comfortable. I mean, I don't think Bournemouth created too many more chances after they got their goal.
No, I think if you know the history of Donnarumma, he's been great, started very early, I think 15 or 16 years old. But that's always been a question of him. I think playing with his feet, as we know, he's a bit that's why PSG well, we believe that's why PSG got rid of him. But also him coming out to claim crosses has also been a big question mark over him. So I don't know. I think it's always been something, a question around him. It's been something around him for a while. It's not something new. I think he's a bit soft, like you said. I don't think it was a fault at all in him going to try to claim that ball. But yeah, it was always a question mark around his feet, and I think the way he comes to claim crosses.
Well, we'll see kind of how that develops throughout the season. Not necessarily something I've been keeping my eye on, but definitely something I think to kind of watch out for next, especially with the Liverpool game coming up. I think that Liverpool have had some success off of corners and crosses, so it's gonna be something to keep an eye out for in that game. But that wraps up Sunday. One game on Monday, Sunderland at home to Everton, and a 1-1 draw in this game. And I think this is exactly actually what I predicted for this game. And Die with the goal in the first half, and then Jaka with the goal in the second half to even it up. And I think you and I actually were talking about this offline, and it was a brilliant game overall. I mean, it was an end-to-end game.
Yeah, I really enjoy this game. Thoroughly just enjoy watching both teams. I think Everton was a bit better in the first half in the start, and then Sunderland picked it up through midway, I would say, through the first half. What a goal from Everton in the first half there, as well. What a dribble, and the way to just slide it in. But yeah, I think, like you said, just thoroughly enjoyed this game. The only thing I would ask for a bit more is just some more goals. Really end to end, Sunderland being, picking it up midway through the second half and getting that equalizing goal just for halftime right there with Jaka. So yeah, it was a really good game.
Well, that moves us into the predictions. Match week 10 is done and dusted, and I mean the table is looking interesting. Still early, so not really too much to read into, but City moving into second place, kind of staying on pace with Arsenal a bit there, and then Liverpool into third, which I think we'd both agree that that's probably the top three right there. So I think they'll kind of, just kind of foreshadowing here, but I think they'll sort of start to pull away those three. But interesting to see what happens below them. I think it's kind of up for grabs. And then the bottom three, I'm not even going to mention Wolves. I think they're going to stay there, but Forrest and West Ham both picking up points. So I think it's a bit sort of worrying for Leeds and Burnley starting to kind of breathe down their necks. Fulham's down there too, but I expect Fulham to kind of get some points.
Yeah. Yeah, I expect Fulham to pick it up as well. And looking at the match week 11 right now, there's some interesting games, like you said. So a lot could change. Sunderland playing Arsenal at the top there. Top four battle, or I wouldn't even say top four battle, but lots of changes could happen up there in the top. And like you said, down in the bottom, Leeds playing Forrest. That's going to be interesting. Brentford playing Newcastle as well. So there's some interesting matchups to come. Would see what happened with Wolves as well. I know you wrote them off and you said you're not going to say anything, but with the manager change, I know being a Chelsea fan, that new manager bounced. So let's see.
Has anyone been confirmed for that? I'm actually not even sure yet.
I don't think there has been anyone confirmed, not at the time of recording, but we'll keep an eye on it and see what happens.
All right, yeah, definitely one to keep an eye out for. Well, I guess this moves us into match week 11, last match week before the international break.
Not
And
another international break,
Mate,
man.
another one, and I have a feeling this one's gonna feel extremely long, but that's just
Yeah.
me. Um, but we'll do the predictions and obviously next week's pod, and we'll have a little break. But moving into 11, first game of the weekend, 7:30 Saturday morning, which I actually enjoy those early morning games. I'm up early, so I think it's something to kind of pass by the morning with. But Spurs United, what are we thinking on this one?
Spurs United. I'm gonna go 2-1 United.
All right, I like that. I honestly was thinking that. I'm gonna go 2-2. I'm gonna go 2-2. I think Spurs have to bounce back, and I think that they're home. They absolutely have to put something together. Next up at the Hill Dickinson, mate, Everton Fulham.
Everton Fulham. This will be a good game. I'm gonna go 2-1 Everton.
All right, I'm gonna go for another 2-2.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep it 2-2. This one's a tough one to call. West Ham Burnley. I think West Ham is gonna win. I think that they're gonna put some pressure on Burnley. I think if they win, actually, they go tied on points with them. But I'll go 2-1 West Ham.
Okay. I'm gonna go. I think it'll be a good game. I'm gonna go 2-1 Burnley.
All right, that's interesting. So opposite directions. We'll see how that one plays out. Next up, Stadium of Light. Sunderland host Arsenal. I think that this is going to be an interesting one. I don't know what the fitness is looking like for Gyökeres, but I think Arsenal will win. I'm going to go 2-0.
Yeah, I think Arsenal will win as well, but I'm gonna go 2-1. I want to see him die, if that's how you pronounce his name. I'd like to see him terrorize that back line a bit, at least.
We'll see. I'm hoping you're absolutely wrong. Keep that clean sheet record intact there, but we'll see. I mean, it's inevitable. It's gonna happen. I don't see it happening in this game, but you never know.
Long throws, set piece. I think there's chances, man. And
Yeah,
Sunderland's in a good moment. Xhaka is also coming, playing against his old team. He always has a point to prove. So there's
yeah.
some stories there, but like you said, I think it could just go Arsenal way where they just comfortably win as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see. Interesting one. I think it's going to be a good one. It's the 12:30 kickoff on Saturday, so it'll be the only game. So hopefully you and I both can catch it. Next up, Chelsea Wolves, and I'm just going to let you know I was thinking of triple captaining Enzo for this game. Not sure if I should do it, but it's something I've been debating. I feel like he gets 2 goals and an assist.
I mean, I'm a Chelsea fan, so I'm rarely ever like that, to be honest, especially when we're playing. For me, I want us to win, and yeah, I'm gonna go 2-0 Chelsea,
All right.
but I don't know.
I'm gonna go 3-0 Chelsea. I'm gonna keep it with my 2 Enzo goals and an assist. I think it'll be a game time decision if I use it. I don't know, just feeling it. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I even used my triple captain last year, so gotta find
Yeah,
one
you gotta
this
gotta
year.
gotta make sure you use the points. But yeah,
All right, next up, Sunday games, 4 at 9 a.m. So it's gonna be an interesting choice to see which one we watch. And just by looking at it, I'm thinking it's either gonna be that Villa Bournemouth game or the Palace Brighton game. I don't know why. I enjoy watching games at Palace for some reason. It just feels like a good watch for me. And Brighton's not a bad watch either.
both are two good teams. I think probably Brighton
Yep.
is probably gonna be the best game on that day. On
Yep.
that time, I should say.
But the prediction for Villa Bournemouth, this is a difficult one. What are you leaning towards?
This is away at Villa. I'm gonna go 3-1 Bournemouth. I think
All right.
Bournemouth's gonna win.
I like that. I'm actually gonna go 2-1 Bournemouth. Next up, Brentford Newcastle, another difficult one to call. I want to lean towards Newcastle, but I know they have Champions League midweek, and I honestly I don't want any Voldemade points if he's still in. So I'm gonna go. I don't know, man. I can't get. I want to give it to Brentford, but I'm gonna go 1-0 Brentford.
I'm gonna go one.
All right. Voldemade own goal and red card incoming.
Be selling by then.
No, I think you should keep him. Keep him for this one. Just one more. Next up, Palace Brighton. Exciting game, thrilling game. I'm honestly gonna go for um I'm gonna go for a Palace victory, and I think it'll be 3-2.
I'm gonna go 3-1 Palace.
All right. We're making our way to the big one. One more left. Forrest Leeds. What are we thinking on this one? An all relegation contender affair.
Forrest has to win, and I'm gonna go 2-1 Forrest.
I like that. I'm actually thinking the same thing. I think Forrest impressed me last time out at United, so I think that they will take the victory. I'm gonna go 2-0.
Okay, good prediction. Brings us into the big one here.
Yeah, City Liverpool, big game at the top of the table. I think for me personally, I'd like to see this game finish in a draw. If I'm being honest, I wouldn't mind a Liverpool victory, but at the same time, I say that and I feel like that kind of builds a lot of confidence in that camp. So I'm hoping for a draw. I'm gonna go 2-2 draw.
I'm actually gonna go 3-1 City. I think
Wow.
City is in a better moment, a better time at the time, and Liverpool defensively there's question. Like I said with Haaland, I just think Haaland will be a bit too much for that Liverpool defense that's a bit questionable at the moment.
A bold prediction, and you know what? I think like any result, I think it's possible. I think this game really could go either way. I don't necessarily think. Well, I don't. I'm not gonna say I don't think, but I have feel as though it's more winnable by City than it is Liverpool, just based off of sort of what's been going on recently. But you never know. I mean, both teams play Champions League midweek. Obviously Liverpool play on Tuesday and City play on Wednesday. So interesting to see if Bernardo Silva has any complaints about playing on Wednesday and playing on Sunday. We'll see. Definitely one to keep an eye on, and it will be an exciting review. I'm sure whatever happens will be exciting for us to kind of go over. That kind of concludes this week's pod, match week 10 pod, moving into 11. One more match week before the international break. How are we feeling?
Not excited for the international break, but we finish off with a W. I think it would be a good one for us. Like you said, coming up after the match week. I'm not after the match week, but after the international break, we have some big matches: Arsenal, Barcelona in the Champions League. So yeah, let's see. Hopefully, we can be in the best shape possible going into that. But I think there will be some good games. There's some interesting games to finish off the week, to finish off the break, finish off at least the Premier League before the break. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
interested to see how those go.
Absolutely. Should be another interesting match or another interesting match week in the Prem. I'm excited to kind of go through it all again and sit here and discuss it this time next week.
But we'll see you next week, my bro. It was a nice match week, this one.
Absolutely, mate. Well, that's all from me. So we'll see you next week.